I couldn't eat that night. Looking down at my full plate of chicken and rice with a side of bread, glass of clean water, I couldn't stomach it. Not after that afternoon. Not knowing that a few miles away from where I was in Kenya, there was the village that I just visited. There were emptier plates than mine and definitely hungrier bellies. I couldn't eat that night. Thanks so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Why am I talking about this? Dedicating a whole video to this. You've seen online and on commercials with like Sarah McLachlan soundtracks in the background, The Arms of an Angel, right? Or maybe you're even like me and you sponsor kids through World Vision or any of those other programs. But for me, this was very different than that. This was a moment where I saw it with my own eyes, and the eyes of a child as old as my own daughters were staring back at me. And I can't turn away unfazed. You may have already seen the photos of these kids that Manny Ortiz posted on Instagram. I remember actually being jealous when he posted them that I wasn't the first to share what our group of 12 Americans, tourists really on safari in Kenya just experienced. You know, we're all sitting around the media tent and I remember him posting, I'm like, damn, I wish I posted those first because they're really impactful. But then I watched him deal with getting absolutely eviscerated for posting those kids. Countless hate comments, endless days of email attacks, and more death threats than anyone should have to experience. And then I got scared and I didn't post the children at all. Like, it's been some time. I wasn't sure that I ever would post them at all because I didn't want all that to happen to me. But I don't know. I know what this might cost me posting this, but I've decided that I don't care. My cost, what this might cost me to post all this and talk about this, is not nearly as important as those kids that I saw. It's not even close. Let me just take you back. So before going to the Maasai village, we weren't told much, just that it was a village and we were invited and welcome and permitted and ultimately asked to take photos. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. I'm here in Kenya. I want to see some sort of culture instead of just animals, right? And some of the people that were on the trip with me, they told me that they'd been to something similar and that it was a stupid tourist trap. And it was like a Disney version of what village life was like, and that the end of the ride, they'd sell us something at the corresponding gift shop. Like, oh, it's Star Wars ride? Then let's buy Yoda at the end. Whatever. I still wanted to go. I still wanted to see, so I did. And for the record, not all of us did. Some people stayed back. As we walked into the village, we were greeted in song by women and children that lived there. I believe there were 27 of them, most of them kids. Men were there, about 6 of them. They were present. They were more of our guides and translators. What we first saw is what I mentioned that you've digitally seen 100 times. Tattered clothes for the kids, traditionally bright colored garb for the adults, mud huts, barn animals all around, including a calf that actually still had its umbilical cord attached. Just really cute. It was like falling over. Anyway, we were encouraged to greet the kids by putting our hands on their heads, and the women with a handshake along with saying a word of greeting that I think was Sude. I don't really remember it. I'm sorry.
Sopa.
Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, but also making it really easy to build a website for selling my photography in order to build clean wells. It was the easiest thing possible, even able to place this video placeholder here where the video you are watching right now will be placed, but pull together something really creative and fun where I can showcase not only the Maasai people, but the images that I'm going to ultimately sell. Squarespace makes it really easy to sell anything from digital goods to physical goods like this one, including all the variables that you see here, selecting what size, selecting materials, and then really quick adding to cart. So please go ahead and hop over to this Squarespace website where you can print photos from this trip that I took. Every single print is personally signed by me, but on top of it, you are helping build freshwater wells for villages in Kenya. There are lots of photos that you can choose from, so I hope you find some that you really like like and you're able to help me support the Kenyan community in this way. And then of course, enjoy some really nice art for your home. If you're not familiar with Squarespace yet, it's super easy to use. I can just edit the header right here if I want to. It's super easy to put these together and you get 10% off with the link that you see on the screen. And thanks again, Squarespace, for making it so easy to pull together a website like this one that is ready for launch. Now back to the video. None of this like seemed real, like song and dance. We do this cute little cultural greeting. Like, where were the bathrooms? Why did we only get invited into one home? Where do they get their cell phones from and sunglasses? While thinking about all that, there was something off. Like, what am I seeing right now that's like off to me? And then I remember looking over at Manny and we realized it. And it's what made me realize that I wasn't in the land of make-believe. The flies. It wasn't that there were flies all around. There were barn animals, remember? And the ground was quite literally crap. It wasn't that the flies were present. Obviously they would be. You're standing in the middle of the village, which in the middle of it, it's like where the cattle are held at night, so the wild animal don't get them. So there's literally like they defecate all over and their excrement becomes the floor of this entire village. Very small village, like a small circle. And the children are barefoot running around in this poop. It wasn't the fact that the flies were there. There are bugs everywhere. It was the fact that they were on the children, on their hands, their clothes, their faces, and even their eyeballs. And they weren't swatting them away. All of them, including the infants, were completely desensitized to the flies crawling on their eyes because they live with them there on their faces every single minute of every single day. And that's when I realized it. This was not a tourist trap. This was real. And the flies, for me, were the pivotal point of what showed that to a naive, ignorant, and privileged American woman like me. That's why I can't retouch them out of these photos that I'm showing you. And even if I tried, and I did, to swat one away as I was taking photos of the kids, 3 more would come back in its place. And the flies were the harsh reality that like struck me, and I kind of hope it's how it strikes you too, that this is not just a fantasy. There was no gift shop at the end of this emotional roller coaster. Now, I'm all like dramatic and emotional about this right now. I think I would have broken down and probably cried right there on the spot if it weren't for this one thing. Their absolute undeniable joy. The smiles on all the adults and the children were infectious. The pride of them showing us their home and their way of life to us, it was palpable. Their resourcefulness, by the way, and lack of waste was both humbling as well as inspiring. And the kids, they wanted nothing more than to interact and to play, be photographed, and like crowd around to see pictures on the back of our camera. They actually fought. I have a picture of them fighting to be in front of our cameras. To be honest, the most difficult part about taking pictures was the fact that like when you wanted to photograph like one kid, like 3 more kids would jump in. Catching them off guard actually, like catching them playing or, you know, working became my main focus to try to like get that actual life. But their joy, it was contagious. And while playing and photographing them, I couldn't stop smiling. Get it. So what is this? What is it like? So their houses are made of clay and cow dung. Yes, without running water or electricity or enough space for more than 4 adults at once. Like we had to take turns going inside the one that we went in. And it's common for couples to have more children than that, like 4 kids, 5 kids, more kids. So I don't even understand what the sleeping arrangements are like. There was like a 4x4 dried cowhide bed that I actually sat inside the hut. There were no doors. There was a doorway on the home, but not an actual door. And think about that, in the wild, in safari, to trick the hyenas from not coming into their homes, they hang cowhides at the front door and hope that that will satisfy and trick the animals from eating them and their children in their sleep. Here I am worried about my kids' scraped knees from brand new bicycles that I can buy them and being kept awake at night from the somewhat unrealistic fear that one day my kid may drown in a $100,000 in-ground pool in the neighborhood, while the Maasai walk their children to school 100 yards away so that they don't get eaten by lions. As a mother, I can't imagine that kind of fear for the safety of your children. Going back to the beginning, you've seen them with these new things, cell phones. Well, you know, clothes even, like donations, we do donate domestic and abroad. Those donations go somewhere, and some of them do have jobs that aren't working the land or the farm animals that bring in money to the community, in addition to the things that they sell, like beaded jewelry, which yes, I bought some. They do have inexpensive things like cell phones, but in order to charge them, they have to walk to a faraway town that's the nearest village to charge them because there's no electricity nearby at all. Like, this is very different. Don't get me started about the lack of clean water. So seeing firsthand this living situation of the village people, and then also watching the onslaught of the aggression towards Manny from showing that reality, it left me in this really weird position, and a pretty ignorant one, I realized after reading a lot of the comments on this post. So thankfully, I have a close friend, who's actually a neighbor of mine, who's native Kenyan, along with her husband, and she's someone that I knew I could talk to openly with. So I did. I texted her while I was still in Kenya, and I flat out asked her the question that I pretty much already knew the answer to: is this real? At first, she kind of didn't want to talk about it because of how heartbreaking it is. I kind of pressed and asked to hear more. She told me, yes, it's real. And then she told me about how the government won't help them, even though they're responsible for bringing in quite a bit of money to the country through tourism. It's also difficult to help just by sending money. Like, I'd love to think I can send money and all the problems go away, but it doesn't necessarily do the trick, because if it's not done through reputable organizations, like, things just don't make it. But one thing she told me that put me over the edge was, girls get married young, no school, among so many other things that are wrong. And it was like a little bit of a vague book, so I did a little digging and saw what that actually meant. In my research, I saw that girls are sometimes married / exchanged for cattle at 11 to 13 years old, and female genital mutilation is not out of the question, according to some of the articles that I read. Please understand that there are so many other parts of Kenya, and Kenyan life overall and culture is not dictated by what I'm showing you here. I only saw the portion that was handed to me as the trip that I went on, that I paid for. And I understand that there's so much more to Kenya than what I saw. I get that. And I can see the frustration, which is part of what I read, the frustration of Kenyans constantly seeing this side of the country representing it as a whole. This does not represent Kenya as a whole. I plan to come back, hopefully with my friend, and see more of the country and different cultures that I'd also love to photograph one day. And I have so many other plans I'll tell you about in a second. But for now, I can only do what I believe is right given the experience, and given my experience, I have to help. First, I'm hoping that through this video, maybe I'll write an article, and the photos and video that I'm sharing, I hope I'm inspiring others to give. You can go to a bunch of different links. I have them in the description below. Too Young to Wed is another one that I really like that helps fight against child marriage. And you can absolutely just send money, and that's going to help. But for me personally, I want to do more than that. So prints from the photos that I created of the animals in Africa are available for purchase for a limited time. 100% of the proceeds, there's a link down below, you can go there, 100% of the proceeds are going directly to building a well in Kenya. And I'm hoping, haven't totally gotten to that part yet, but hoping directly for the Maasai people specifically. I want to help with the clean water situation for villages like this. At the minimum, I want help give access to clean water. And I know I can help build wells if I can just raise $15,000, and hopefully we can build many more than that. I started thinking about this and writing this on my disgustingly privileged first class seat home with my, $25,000 of photography equipment in hand. Like, it doesn't feel good, but it also makes me feel very, very grateful, not just to have learned and be more than thankful for what I have, but to be in a position to help and encourage others to do the same. My dream, aside from me going and grabbing some of those photos so I can raise money to build a well, my dream is actually to organize another trip to the same village or similar ones to give them the gift of photography, because photography, especially with phones these days, like we all take it for granted, those of us that are fortunate to have them. But think about this. Think about never seeing old photos of you growing up. Imagine not being able to look back and see how your child looked when they were little, or see the growth of your family, or cherish the image of someone you've lost. I want to help give that gift of visual legacy to the Maasai people by going back with my camera, photographing them nicely. Maybe we bring a backdrop and like just put it right there in the middle of the village, and print the photos on the spot. That's what I really want to do. Print the photos on the spot and give it to them to treasure in a weatherproof container. Anyway, that's my dream. I'm sure there'll be more to come because I go after dreams like this. But if you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening to me ramble. Thank you for listening to my experience. And if you've felt the weight of this alongside me, thank you so much. I pray that it's inspiring for you and that it inspires you to help in some way, or even if I've just introduced you to a part of the world that you may not have known before. And I hope that it affects you in a powerful way, the same way that it did me. Thanks.